My name is Colin West. I'm an RN in the Clinical Nurse Leader program at the University of San Francisco. This is my presentation on interviewing someone that I think is in a leadership position for my Foundations in CNL Leadership class. The person I interviewed, name is Terry Leckenbaugh. She's an RN with Master's in Nursing. She graduated from Pace University with a Bachelor's in Social Work and went back for the Master's in Nursing. She worked as a bedside nurse until a back injury placed her at risk for repeated and worsening injuries. She was recommended to apply for a nurse manager position, and she's now been a nurse manager for over 20 years. Her first nurse manager position was overseeing a 50-bed neurosurgery unit at Temple Hospital in Philadelphia. She relocated to Seattle, Washington, and has been a nurse manager for a variety of units at the Veterans Affairs Puget Sound Healthcare System for over 12 years. Ms. Leckenbaugh is currently the nurse manager of the Post-Anesthesia Recovery Unit, Surgical Intensive Care Unit, Progressive Care Unit, and Surgical Floor, an assignment that is almost double that of other nurse managers in our facility, and she completes this assignment with ease. During the interview process, which was conducted on Tuesday, July 29th, we originally had set up 30 minutes for the interview. We had allowed optional time for another 30 minutes for additional clarification, but the interview actually ended up lasting almost 2 hours. I had originally prepared 8 questions, 5 main questions I was hoping to ask, and 3 additional questions as backup in case I needed more material. The interview took place in Ms. Leckenbaugh's office. Reflecting upon the interview that I conducted, some of the questions that I look back on are what would I do to improve the process and/or method before conducting my next interview. Prior to my next interview, I would take more time to develop my questions. It was challenging to design the questions I wanted to ask relating to leading in a chaotic environment. I wanted to ask what it was like working in a chaos environment, but some of those questions didn't translate very well. What I learned was that during this process, everyone I encounter has something to teach me about leadership if I take the time to ask questions. That includes people I perceive in leadership positions and people that were potential followers. If you take the time to see what they can offer you, then you can learn a lot from each of those people. What I would do differently next time is ask to meet in a more private place. As I previously mentioned, the interview was conducted in Ms. Leckenbaugh's office, and although we had originally planned for 30 minutes, it ended up taking 2 hours because Ms. Leckenbaugh has an open door policy. And although that's a wonderful leadership trait, it did make it challenging to complete the interview in a timely manner. The most interesting part of the interview that I thought was Ms. Leckenbaugh feeling nervous in the beginning. I've known her for almost 10 years and was surprised by this response to being interviewed. She expressed that it was challenging for her to reflect upon herself, to do self-reflection, and that it actually did make her nervous. Some of my questions that I thought were the best questions I asked were to identify 3 characteristics that she possesses that make her an effective leader and why. I think this is an important interview question because many people perceive leadership traits differently, and it gave me a baseline for what Ms. Leckenbaugh perceives makes an effective leader. Also, the last question I asked of what would you like to share with me that I have not asked. I thought this question was a good question because it's open-ended and it allowed Ms. Leckenbaugh to reflect on her definition of leadership and prompted her to dig deep into herself and her leadership styles. She responded with some ideas of leadership traits that I would not have considered. The weakest question that I thought that I asked is the question related to working in a complex adaptive system. The question overall didn't translate very well, and it took more explanation than I would have preferred to take time on. I do feel like the person I chose to interview is a good choice for me because we have similar leadership styles, but also some important differences between us. The differences do not make one of us better than the other. They just give each other an opportunity to learn and grow from each other and gain new insights. I do think that interviewing nurse leaders will help me once I start being interviewed for my own position because I think that an interview process goes both ways. They will be interviewing me at the same time that I am interviewing them. And I think that practicing will give me an opportunity to gain insight into some questions that I would like to ask, as also into some responses that I would like to be given. The interview was interesting, and it's a very informative process. I do think it's a great method for self-reflection, and I will use it more often in an informal manner. Some things that surprised me were how much I still have to learn from Ms. Leckenbaugh, even though I've known her for 10 years, which reinforces my belief that an effective leader never stops learning.